The most important thing in business is honesty, integrity, hard work, family, never forgetting where we came from.
How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to the show. You are now rolling with the D. I am your host, Sunny D. You are in the place to be. We've made it to December. It is officially the second day of December. So if you haven't arrived at December yet, welcome to December. It is the last month of 2014. I'm super excited. Got a lot of cool things coming up. I know I'm fired up about 2015. I'm ready for it to get here. And just thinking about like what's going to happen. You know, this next month is going to fly by. This whole year flew by. So I want you to be thinking about this next month and not letting it just happen, not taking it for granted, making sure you're making the best of it. Thanks for tuning in today. You guys are rolling with the D. This is where we are hacking the Bob, or as I like to say, hacking the business of beauty, where we come to you every day to talk about different things as it pertains to being a beauty entrepreneur. How are you looking at your business as a business? Maybe you're a business owner, maybe you're an independent stylist, maybe you're not even a stylist, maybe you just stumbled upon this material, but you are an entrepreneur. And if you're not an entrepreneur, you have that inner entrepreneur. My goal, my job, my mission with Rolling with the D is to help bring that out of you. So if you're watching live, or if you're watching on a replay, or if you're on our podcast, thanks for tuning in. If you're on the podcast, make sure you're leaving us a review in the iTunes store. That helps give us distribution, that helps give us ranking so other people can discover the content. So it helps create that distribution. So leave us a rating. You love the show, you hate the show, leave us a rating, leave us some feedback, let us know how we're doing. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. If you're subscribed to the podcast, you'll get automatic downloads right onto your smartphone with your podcast app. And if you are subscribed to the channel, you'll get updates. So when the show goes live, if you ever want to catch it live, you'll get a little email, and it'll say, "Hey, Rolling with the D just went live." So that's a way that you can stay in tune if you subscribe to our channel, whether it be on the Ustream.tv, or maybe you're checking us out on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to our channel. So today I wanted to come to you guys and just kind of talk a little bit about, the mindset that I'm getting focused on in my own company with my own team. Been doing a lot of thinking about this, and looking at 2015, looking at what's going on with the economy. We just had Black Friday just came through, and people are kind of freaking out a little bit because sales, they're not what they expected them to be. We had Cyber Monday yesterday. They said sales are up, but they're wondering, like, people are being very strategic. People are starting to get very strategic when it comes to their dollars. And as a business owner, running my own company, maybe you're a business owner, I need you to start thinking like a business owner, though. Even if you don't personally have your skin in the game, maybe you don't have a brick and mortar, maybe you don't have a business per se, you still are a business. So I want you to start thinking like a business, and I want you to start practicing what business owners do. So for me, I never had any formal business school. I barely made it through high school. I came into this world, with the mindset of I want to make it. I just need to find the tools, find a way how. And then I started doing the research, I started doing the training, I started doing the studying, feeding my mind on a regular basis, making sure I'm getting good input, getting good data, not getting hoodwinked, because if you watch the news, you don't know what to think, right? Because 1 minute, the economy's doing great, next minute it's not, 1 minute we should be scared, next minute, so you don't know what to think. But you got to get good data. But I want to share with you something today that I picked up along the way that I'm really starting to implement in my own life and my own mentality. And I'm also going to be, sharing this with my team because I want to strengthen my team. This is the kind of information you could take back, apply it to yourself, but then share it with everybody else, everybody who's in your family, everybody who you care about. You want to share this information with. And this information comes from a book called the Cashflow Quadrant. I don't know if you've ever seen this little diagram before, but this is an example of what the Cashflow Quadrant is. Now, all of us typically, throughout our life, we live in one of these quadrants. Some of us live in all of these quadrants, or maybe one or two or three of these quadrants. But throughout life, you're going to find yourself, you're going to identify yourself in each of these quadrants. All of these quadrants produce revenue. All of these quadrants, are good to be in depending on where you're going. But first you got to find out and you got to realize kind of where you're at. So I'm going to actually walk you guys through this cash flow quadrant, and I'm going to share with you, what those different quadrants represent, what they mean, and hopefully you'll be able to identify where you're at inside of the quadrant. And once you do that, then you can identify kind of a target. You can look at a goal. Okay, say, I'm starting here, and I want to get to here. So you can think about where you're at, and then you can think about where you want to go. And I know for me, coming into 2015, I have my eyes set, on specific quadrants, which I'll share with you, the direction that I'm moving, and being able to share this information with you, I'm hoping that you'll be able to take it back and start applying it. Now, depending on what quadrant you're in, applying it's going to look different for everybody. I don't know what your financial situation is, and, that's for you to know, and I don't want to find out. But what you're going to do is you're going to take this information and then you're going to apply it to your specific situation depending on what your target is and depending on what your goal is. So the first thing you got to do is figure out where we're at, and then we could talk about where we're going to go. And this kind of information, especially right around now, because you're coming into this time of the year, there's a lot of currency flowing. You've got money flowing in, money flowing out. We talked about, what last Friday, we talked about what Black Friday really is. And it was kind of depressing to think about the origins of it, for what the businesses are. If you missed that show, you definitely want to go back and watch that. But Black Friday, that's, that day when businesses are waiting to finally get into the black. That's where the name came from, where they're actually making cash flow positive. That's kind of sad. It's kind of scary. But that's the reality, the business landscape, depending on what you're doing with your business all year long. So as we look at this, for me, learning about this tool, learning about this thing called money, that's been a big mission for me. I've been doing a lot of studying on it, been reading up on a lot of it, really trying to learn, not just taking face value for what somebody says to you, not listening just because the bank said it, it's gospel, or I saw it on Bloomberg News, or I read it in the Wall Street Journal, I read it in Money Magazine. That doesn't mean, or my uncle told me, or my mom told me, or my dad told me. I'm not taking that for face value. I want to do my own research. I want to know as much about this tool as possible, because there's no way you're going to get around it. Whether you have a little bit of money, you've got a ton of money, the more you know about the tool, you can use the tool. The less you know about the tool, you'll get used by the tool. And I've been used by the tool when I didn't have my knowledge, when I didn't learn up, I didn't study up on this tool. And I've been used by it and abused by it. But as I start to learn more and I start to sharpen my saw and I start to understand how this thing really works, the importance of understanding, what money is, that it's a currency. The key thing about a currency is it keeps flowing. And you see when money stops flowing, what happens? Economies go down. Think back just, a short 6 years ago where we were at. Economy, the bottom fell out, housing market crashed, people lost their jobs, millions of people unemployed, being pushed out of their houses. What happened? A lot of those people didn't understand the currency. The ones who did, made money through that whole entire period. The ones who didn't lost through that whole entire period. And we're still in the bottom of that period. We're still on the road to recovery. We're still trying to recover from what happened 6 years ago. So I want you to be thinking about that, because the more you know about it, no matter where you are, it's just important that you start learning about it. And that's my message. Sharing this cash flow quadrant with you, hopefully you'll start learning about it. You'll start taking some of this information in. You're gonna have to digest it if it's not something you study on a regular basis. Trust me, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a financial advisor, but I know that when I talk to those people in those professions these days, I actually can have a conversation with them now. And it wasn't like that, even a year ago. But I've been learning more, and I've been a business owner for 5 years. I've had my own company, but still I always kind of pass that work on to other people. But I'm really deciding now, I'm making this claim for you guys to make this claim. I would say highly recommended. Learn about money. Learn as much as you can about the tool. Learn how it changes hands. Learn the terminology, and you'll hear some of that as we go through the cash flow quadrant. And this was just a great tool. It was an eye-opener. The first time I ever saw this, I was like, wow, I gotta make some changes. Great tool, and I want to share that with you guys today. So that's going to be our focus. We're going to be looking at the cash flow quadrant. I'm going to break down the 4 different quadrants, help you identify where you're at, and then you can start thinking about where you want to go. You're going to decide, you're going to set your targets, you're going to set your goals where you want to go. I just want to help you identify, share the information with you, and then let you sharpen your saw with this. Now, the first time you see this, it's a little bit of an eye-opener when I break down these quadrants. But as you start to understand it, and you identify yourself, things will change for you. And I guarantee that. So I'm excited to share this information with you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the 4 quadrants. We're going to break them down, talk about where they could lead you, and then you can identify where you're at. So stay with me. If you guys are following on Twitter, make sure you're using our hashtag RWTD. If you're on the stream watching us, thanks for joining. We'll be right back. Stick with us. We're going to break down the cash flow quadrant. Stay tuned.
This break is brought to you by 1.0 Express, a Paul Mitchell focus salon and professional training salon. Are you a professional stylist who loves professional training? Or are you a salon owner who wants your stylist to receive the best professional training and become more well-rounded? Then you need to visit 1.0 Express, a professional training salon, where we offer a variety of weekly mini classes and workshops that range in areas such as hair cutting, hair coloring, hairstyling, and business building. 1.0 Express, a professional training salon. Visit us at www.thesalon1.net for our upcoming schedule of classes and workshops, or call us at 813-870-3700. That's 813-870-3700. 1.0 Express, a professional training salon for salon professionals who love professional training. We'll see you there.
Your morning, your job, your activities throughout the day, they all take a toll on you. Then you have to do it all again, and again, and again. Sometimes you need an extra charge. Awake Energy Shots give your body the boost it needs when you can't afford a letdown. Take charge. Get Awake Energy Shots exclusively at shop.com.
All right, welcome back. You're rolling with the D. I'm coming to you each and every day. Today, folks, we are talking about the cash flow quadrant. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Sunny D. You can follow me on Twitter at PMTheSalon. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this cash flow quadrant. Now, when you look at the quadrant, I want you to be thinking about this. The cash flow quadrant really shows you 4 different opportunities. You see the E, the B, the S, and the I. What those represent are 4 different opportunities or 4 different ways for you to earn income. So we want you to think about there's a couple different kinds of income. You have linear income, and you also have, leveraged and residual income. And when you look at the quadrant, on the E side and the S side is where you're going to see the linear income. And then when you look at the B side and the I side, that's where you're going to see the leveraged income or the residual income. So we're going to start with the E. This is probably most common for everyone to understand what the E quadrant represents. The E stands for an employee. So when you think about an employee, you have a job. That's basically how it is. You may be, working, you have an hourly wage, maybe you're working on a commission. You are working, trading time for money. That's going to be what a job really represents in pretty much every society. So as an employee, couple things in the employee sector. You don't really have any leverage, right? Because if you don't show up, you don't get paid. So there's no leverage in there. And when you look at overall wealth distribution, the distribution of wealth is definitely not anything what we call even. It's not proportionate. There's not like 25% goes to the E's, 25 goes to the B's. It's very disproportionate. And about 5% of the wealth actually lives within the employees. So it's the time for money game. So just think about that, maybe where you're at. The amount of active work you do determines the income that you make. So that's typically where we all start out. I delivered papers. I had a newspaper route when I was a kid. That was my first job. I started doing a little hustling here and there. I remember in middle school, I was hustling. I was selling whatever it is, selling candy, selling this, just trading, right? Looking at the basic trade. So you may have started, maybe you shoveled, up north. I grew up north, so we shoveled driveways, make a few dollars there, mowing a lawn. So you're doing some kind of, work, and then you're going to get paid. You're going to get compensated for that. So that's typically how we all start. Now, as you kind of go along, you go to school. When you go to school, you're looking at becoming a professional of some sort, maybe getting a technical, degree or training of some sort, just like I did. Where I ended up, going to beauty school, went to cosmetology school, got a license to become a cosmetologist, become a hairstylist. So as you start to look at the E, now we're going to go into the S. So this is really the next move most people are going to take. They're going to come into this arena of being self-employed. So that's like where I started. Right after I finished beauty school, I became, self-employed, meaning I owned a job. Now, professionals typically will fall into this ranking if you own a job. So if you're working, say like your lawyers, your doctors, a lot of hairstylists, massage therapists, they own a job. They have some of that independence, right? So they're able to work. They own a job. And when you look at the majority of our population, you're talking about probably 95%, of the population falls into this category. There still isn't leverage in this category because one of the things that I realized as a self-employed hairstylist was that when I cut hair, I made money. When I stopped cutting hair, I didn't make any money. I had some of the freedom as a stylist to kind of work on a schedule, and I had that as a commission stylist, you can make any amount of money. There's no limit. There's no cap. There's no, I work 40 hours a week and I get X and that's it. You can make different amounts of income. Just like lawyers, they can bill by the hour. But if they're not billing, they're not getting paid. If I wasn't cutting hair, I wasn't getting paid. So that's where you may be now. So maybe you're out of employee, you're now a professional, you may be a doctor, dentist, lawyer, massage therapist, hairstylist, and you may be self-employed. So that's going to be the amount of active work you do. Again, it's really going to determine your income. So really there's no leverage in that. So in these two sides, looking at the E and the S, determine where you're at. Are you any part of those, or maybe some of those you're both? Currently I still reside, when I work for my company as a hairstylist, I'm back into that self-employed mode. I also do things for my company as an employee. I'm an employee of my own company. So I play in both of those quadrants still to this day. When I do, independent work for other companies, maybe consulting or educating, then I'm working as a self-employed individual, right? So the other things that you'll think about is a lot of times the way that these people are taxed. Some people are taxed as, a W-2. You get a W-2 at the tax year, right? Then you're an employee, where before you get your money, Uncle Sam's already taken his out. That would be an example of that. So all your taxes are withheld, then you go do your income tax, your W-2. A lot of that's on the employee side. A lot of the self-employed people, though, as an independent contractor for companies that I consult for or work for, then I'll be paid all of the money I do for the service that I rendered, and then it's up to me to actually take the money and pay Uncle Sam and handle that bit with my accountant. So that's some of the other differences you'll see between the E and the S. Now, as we start to move into the other side of the quadrant, remember, you could be in more than one, and you're probably going to realize, yeah, I am in more than one, or you may realize that you want to be in more than one. So that covers the E and the S side. So that's more of the linear income. There's a lot of trading of time for money. You do the work, you get paid. You don't do the work, you don't get paid. Now, as we move over to the B, as I started to grow, my career started to move, I saw a possibility to become a business owner. So now when you become a business owner, that's what a B is. You're starting, now you own a system. So I want you to think about business owners. They own a system. What that means is that they have leverage. And this is where the majority of the wealth in our country and pretty much the world resides. It resides in it's being controlled by business owners. So think about any of the businesses that you frequent. Somebody owns that business. Think about Starbucks. Howard Schultz owns Starbucks. He owns the system for how the store is set up, the system for the uniforms that they wear, the systems for how every cup of coffee is brewed, the ingredients, if there's proprietary information and ingredients that they have, the technology. Think about Apple Computer. That's a system. Every single one of their tools, their devices, they're built, and they even call it the OS, right? What is that? Operating system. So it's the OS. So they own a system. They own a system. All of the iPhones they build. You have an iPhone 5, it's built the same way. That's something that he owns, right? And that's going to be what the difference is going to be between Steve Jobs isn't building iPhones, right? He wasn't building iPhones before he passed away. Howard Schultz, he's not in there as a barista brewing coffee, okay? So think about that. A business owner, you own a system. What does that mean? That means you're creating leverage. You now have leverage. And when you have leverage, what that means is you're actually duplicating your efforts. So think about if you're a hairstylist, and as a hairstylist, you can cut 10 heads a day. You got 2 hands, and that's what you can do, 10 heads a day. What happens if you then come up with a system of how those cuts are done, and then you train 5 people to duplicate that? You just created leverage, because now those 5 people do 10 heads a day, and if you continue to do your 10 heads a day plus their 10 heads a day, that now becomes 60 heads a day. And then maybe because you taught them the system, you take a piece of every one of those other 50 haircuts, plus you have the haircuts that you do. That's called leverage. The only way to get to wealth is to discover or to get involved in owning a system that creates leverage. And that's going to be a big thing. We're going to talk more about that when we come back. How do you create leverage and what a system looks like? I'll share with you some of the other systems, but I want you to be thinking about that. Leverage is the key to owning a business, and actually a true business. You're owning a system, and then you create leverage. So I'm going to be right back in a minute here. You guys stick with us. You're rolling with a D. We're talking about your finances. Today we're talking about the cash flow quadrant, how to start thinking about money like the top of the food chain thing. This is how wealthy people get their wealth. They learned about this. I'm learning about this. I'm sharing this with you, the cash flow quadrant. When we come back, we're going to finish off the B quadrant, and then we're going to move into the I quadrant. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second.
This break is brought to you by the Salon 1.0, a Paul Mitchell focus salon with locations in Tampa, Florida and Oldsmar, Florida. Are you tired of the same old routine when you go to the salon? You know the one I'm talking about. You go into the salon, sit down, and the stylist says, "What are you getting done?" And then when you leave, you have a shorter version of the same thing you came in with. Then it's time to upgrade your salon experience and visit the Salon 1.0 near you. Our team of salon professionals are trained in the latest techniques in hair cutting, hair coloring, and hair styling, and will offer you customized consultations with every visit. Enjoy our complimentary beverage bar and private shampoo room where you can sit back, relax, and enjoy a hot towel treatment, head massage, and hand massage with every visit. Come in and let one of our Paul Mitchell trained professionals create your new look. Visit us at www.thesalon1.net to schedule your next reservation. That's www.thesalon1.net. You can also reach us in Tampa at 813-280-2953 or in Oldsmar at 813-854-4505. Visit the Salon 1.0 and let us show you what the salon experience is all about. This break is brought to you by Dilution Co. Are you ready to simplify your life with modern, real-time accounting? Then you're going to want to visit Michael and the team at Dilution Co. They offer a variety of services from accounting, bookkeeping, taxes, tax planning, and financial planning for individuals and businesses to help save you time and money. They utilize the latest innovations in cloud-based technology to really help you grow your business, and they can adapt to any platform. They are truly accountants for the digital age and will keep you up to date with the latest strategies and solutions. Get in touch with Dilution Co. at deluciaco.com, also at 813-252-0-TAX. That's 813-252-0-TAX. Dilution Co. Simplify your life with modern, real-time accounting.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. You're back in the place to be. You're rolling with the D. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Today, we are going through the cash flow quadrant. And really my mission, going into 2015, I've got, you remember the song, right? I think it was Snoop Dogg who said it. He's got his mind on his money and his money on his mind. That's kind of where my mindset's going, because I want to really understand, the finances. I want to understand cash. I want to understand how cash flows, and it's something that I've never, I'm not an accountant. I'm a business owner, hairstylist by trade, entrepreneurial. I've got my inner entrepreneur. So I'm learning this information with you guys. So I'm studying up on this, but I was working on some of this information over the last few days, and I thought, I really want to share this because it really kind of blew my mind just looking at the cash flow quadrant and identifying and actually knowing the different members, if you will, of society, the different sections or the different quadrants in where you live in that quadrant. And where you're at doesn't mean that's the only place you are, because right now, just looking at the first two quadrants, the employee and the self-employed, I see myself in both of those depending on what I'm doing in any given day. And now we're talking about the business owner. So who is the business owner? The business owner is someone that owns a system. The business owner has leverage. The business owner, their income does not depend solely on active work. Maybe it doesn't depend on that at all. Because if you think about companies like Starbucks, right? Howard Schultz isn't making coffee. His income isn't depending on him making coffee. It's depending on the system working. So now, he is now managing the system, making sure all the Starbucks are running correctly. And if they're not, he can make some changes. Like he did, I think it was about 5 years ago. What did he do? Do you guys remember that? Howard Schultz, I think it was for an hour, maybe 2 hours, they shut down every single Starbucks so they could relearn the system, how to make the perfect cup of coffee, how to take care of the customer, the system. So he shut down it was like around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember people freaking out about it. Caffeine, they're like hooked. It's like it's like an IV. So people are freaking out. They're like, oh my God, Starbucks is closed. They're like retraining. So he retrained the entire company. And so that's what he wanted to make sure was working. because his income doesn't depend on him making coffee. It depends on his system working, making sure it's in place, making sure it's implemented. So he went ahead and just shut down everything and retrained everybody on how to make the perfect cup of coffee. Had all of his stores doing that. So owning a system is now where you're talking about leverage. If you own a system, now you have people, like the example I shared about the haircut. You're doing 10 haircuts, you're going to make 10 haircuts worth of pay. You create a system on how to do those haircuts, train 5 other people, they're each doing 10, that's 50, plus your 10, that's 60. And you have a piece of all of that because you created the system, you own the system. Now you have leverage. So people are working with you. That's creating money. So that 10 that you're doing now becomes almost like a bonus. Then you get to a position like Howard Schultz, where Steve Jobs in the beginning, he was in the garage with his partner Steve Wozniak building the computers. Then he gets to a position where he didn't build the computers. He started to move on and focus on other things, making the system better, growing the company. So become a business owner. Even if it's, you're starting small, you have to start thinking like a business owner. You have to start thinking, how do I get leverage? Is there a system that, like a Starbucks or like a McDonald's or one of the other systemized companies that exist? A lot of people, why do you think buying company systems, which they call franchising, is so popular? Because it's already tested, it's already proven, it's already working, it makes money. You don't have to learn how to fry French fries to own a McDonald's franchise. Yeah, you'll probably learn that, but you're buying it because it already works. They give you this is how the system works. Here's the manual. This is how you set it up. This is how everything goes. This is all the equipment. They give it all to you. Boom. There you go. You own now a system, and it's going to generate money for you because you have people working with you. So you want to think about becoming a business owner. You want to start looking at, how do I become a business owner? Are you going to create a system? What I decided to do was create a system, the Salon Project 1.0. And then I trained people. And so now those people are working with me. So now I'm duplicating my efforts. While I'm here doing a show, rolling with the D, we have our other locations. They're humming along. I'm not in there physically cutting hair and checking every haircut because the system is in place and it's working. So that's called leverage. If I didn't have any leverage, I wouldn't be able to do this show. I'd be standing behind the chair all day cutting hair. I wouldn't be able to continue to grow my company because you can only focus on one thing at a time. So you have to think about becoming a business owner. Either you're going to create a system or you're going to buy into a system or purchase a system in the form of an already existing system that works. So becoming a business owner is going to be critical because, as we can see, as a business owner, that's where the majority of the wealth resides. That's where the majority of the cash is. It's in control of business owners. And what else happens as a business owner? You ask your accountant about that. Being a business owner is something you're going to want to be because even the potential tax advantages as a business owner are huge. Because businesses, right, they fuel the economy. Consumers come in and spend. Where does that money go? It goes into the business. The business then continues to create. So they produce products or services. So the government gives businesses tax benefits because they're helping fuel the economy and drive the economy. So you want to think about it. If you haven't thought about it, hopefully this will be a little wake-up call. You need to think about becoming a business owner, either buying into a system or developing one. Now the last one, so we got employee, you have self-employed. Now we're on the other side of the quadrant where the leverage is and the residual income is. You have the business owner, and then we're going to move into this last one here, which is investor. The I stands for investor. So what does an investor do? An investor owns investments. That's pretty much it. They have a tremendous amount of leverage. You're talking about 5% of the population. They're controlling the majority of the wealth, the investors. You think about the income, right? It doesn't depend on active work. What they now have is they don't have people working with them. They don't have a system that they own necessarily, but they actually have their money working for them. And money is making them more money. That's an investor. Your money works for you. You then don't work for money. So think about some of the great investors. You have like the Warren Buffetts. You have, Carl Icahn. You have people that own those big hedge funds like Ray Dalio. I think he has Bridgewater. So some of these big hedge funds, what do? People give them money because they're so good at what they do, because they're able to identify opportunities in the marketplace, whether that be businesses, stock in businesses, different kinds of funds, bonds, different kinds of deals that they discover, and then they actually take that money and then they invest it, and then they get a return on that. And they can live off of those returns. I mean, some of those big hedge funds, we're talking about, trillions of dollars that they are managing, trillions of dollars that they're managing. So when I started to learn more about these guys, the Warren Buffetts, the Carl Icahns, the Ray Dalios, you're going to want to look them up. So I'm like, that's where I want to be. I want to become one of those investors. Now, I'm not a billionaire, right? So as I sit here, I'm thinking, okay, do I have to be a billionaire? Because one thing all of them have in common is they're all billionaires. But I don't. When you start to go back and you start to study up on them, they started just like you and me, guys. They started from nothing. They started just learning, investing a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. So what they would do was over time, they would then take some of the earnings and reinvest it. Take some, reinvest it, and live within their means. And over time, with consistency and discipline, they built up those assets. But just like you and I, Warren Buffett started off in the E. He started off as an employee. Then he moved into self-employed. Then he moved into a business owner. Then he moved into full-on investor. And now he's set, right? We don't even have to, we're talking, I think he's the second, richest person in the world, wealthiest person in the world. Somebody just like, look at Bill Gates. What did he do? He started as an employee, working, tinkering around with computers. Then he saw a need in the marketplace. He started to develop his system. His system was dependent upon people, right? So that people, once he owned the system, he taught them. Then they started to build the business. And then his business started to catch traction. And then what did he do? He took some of the money that he was making from his business. He started investing it into other things. He became an investor. And the rest is history. Now he's, one or two richest people in the world. How does that happen, though? How do you go from an employee, maybe working at minimum wage, all the way to that level? It starts with understanding. And that's really what I wanted to do today. I wanted to shed some light on the cash flow quadrant just so you can get a basic understanding of how all these work together. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is, thinking about the upper left quadrant, that's kind of what we're trained for. That's kind of what we've been trained and conditioned to be. Think about from the time you were, growing up, it's like get a job, go to school, get a job, you earn money, and that's pretty much the line or the storyline that we've been told. I was never showed the cash flow quadrant when I was in school. I knew people owned businesses, but I never really knew how they became that. I never knew where the mindset was, and I never knew really ultimately what the advantage is. Now, being a business owner, is it hard? Sure, it's hard. It's hard every single day. But when you look at the time, right, you start to invest the time over time, then you reap the rewards. So it does take time. It's not like I want you guys to be like, all right, I'm a business owner, and you think all of a sudden all your worries go away. No, initially you're going to take on a lot more worries because building a business is extremely difficult. It's a lot of work. But over time, it pays off. So we've been trained to be employees. Being an employee or self-employed makes for about 95% of the population and creates a really huge dependency, right? So I want you to think about that. As you look at the top of the tier, you look at that 5% of people that control all of the wealth. What do they all have in common? About 80% of them, are their own. They own their own business. They own a system, and the others, they're a combination of owning a business and being investors. That top 1% that we just mentioned, those guys we talked about, like the Bill Gates, the Carl Icahns, the Warren Buffetts, those guys, they're all investors. They own many businesses. A lot of them have actually moved on, but they're to other people, but they all are investors. So what is going to be, where do you see yourself? That's the question. Where do you see yourself? I already know, like I got a foot in an employee. Sometimes I'm an employee for my own company. I've got the self-employed. If I'm working, if I'm independent contracting, I also own my own business, so I do have some leverage. I'm creating leverage through building my company. And also, I'm thinking, okay, what's next? How do I get involved in the investing? How do I get involved in the investing? And it could start with a little bit. A formula that I got, just recently was, think about $1. Live off of 70 cents out of every dollar. Take the other 30 cents and do 3 things with them. 10 cents goes for investing. 10 cents doesn't sound like a lot. 10 cents goes for a saving, and then 10 cents you could use if there's something that you're passionate about, you want to give back. If you go to church, or if there's an organization that you want to give back. So that's what you do, and you live off of 70 cents. So that's the formula that I'm putting in place. In 2015, my mindset is on business and investing. And I want you guys to be thinking about this. The cash flow quadrant, the breakdown, where you see yourself, and where do you want to go. We're all somewhere in here. You're either on the linear income, if you're trading time for money, whether you're an employee or self-employed, or you're on that side regardless, right? Unless you're unemployed. If you're not employed at all, if you're collecting, then you're really a dependent. But this cash flow quadrant, to me, it represents becoming independent. It's going from employee, self-employed, business owner, investor, a combination. So think about where you see yourself at. This year coming up, it's time to make some commitments. Are you going to put the formula in place? Are you going to start to think like the wealthy think? Are you going to start to adopt some of their practices, living off of 70 cents out of every dollar, investing 10 cents, saving 10 cents, and then looking at 10 cents to do some kind of good for humanity? At the end of the day, we're talking about building wealth, getting in a wealthy mindset. We're not taking any of it with us. But I want you to think about this. The more money, the more wealth you have, what could you do with it? Think about people like Bill Gates, trying to eradicate malaria and other diseases. Think about people that had that wealth and what they're able to do with the wealth. Think about what Oprah's able to do with the wealth. So first it's attaining it, and then it's giving it away, making the world a better place, because we're not taking it with us. They're not going to put you in your box and, put all your money, pack all your billions around. That's not what's going to happen. All that money is going to go away. It's going to go back into the society, go back into the current. It's currency. It's going to keep flowing. But what I want you to think about is, what could you do? You owe it to yourself. I know I owe it to myself. I owe it to my company, my team, to become wealthy. I owe it to my family, my community, to become wealthy. What do you think about taking that kind of mindset, learning about where you're at, picking a quadrant that you want to be in? Maybe you see yourself being in the investor. Maybe you see yourself as a business owner this year. 2015, guys, it's right around the corner. Let's shift our mindset. Let's shift how we think about money. If you guys didn't catch the show on the myths of money, I want you to go back and watch that episode. That is a perfect pairing to go with this episode, because this is about a wealth mindset. I'm tuning up my mind. We're going to be going hard. 2015 is going to be our year. I want you guys to come on the journey. Let's do a mindset. Let's do some mindset maintenance. We got some cobwebs we need to get out. Make sure we're putting in the right stuff. Make sure we're feeding our mind on a daily basis, whether you're listening to Rolling with the D, whether you're reading some good books, listening to some good audios, a combination. You can't afford to miss a day. It's just like brushing your teeth. You have to do it every single day to keep those pearly whites pearly, don't you? You're not going to skip days on doing that. why skip days on doing this? So this is about a wealth mindset. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you take something away from today. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see your comments. Shoot me a message. Leave a comment on the video. If you're in the iTunes listening to this on the podcast, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Pass this information on. This is like think of it as it was one of those chain letters. You pass it on, and then you tell that person to pass it on. Pass this information on. We want to get this information in as many people's hands, ears, eyes as possible. Help distribute the information. So I had a great day today with you guys. Excited about 2015. Can't wait for what's coming up this month. Total focus. Let's get totally focused. Let's not sit back and rest on our laurels because we're just kind of coasting in to 2015. Let's start it now. Let's do it now. It's December. I'm here. I'm your chairman, the chairman of your mindset maintenance, the CEO of your mindset development. Your coach for one day a week, small amount of time. You've been rolling with the D. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys real soon. I want to leave you with this. If you can hear me, if you're in the range of my voice, if you're seeing me right now, I want to leave you with this. If you hear my voice, if you see me, if you're catching these words, then I know that you still have greatness in you, and it's not over. So I want to help you unleash that greatness. I want to help you go after your dreams. I want to help you attain your goals, and I want to help you have a great life. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Looking forward. We've got a lot of big things coming up. So stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys, talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.